The MH-47 Chinook pushed through the storm like a battered bird fighting to stay aloft, its twin rotors whipping the snowfall into long, flat waves of white. In the cargo bay, 12 operators from SEAL Team 7 sat in rigid silence, their faces hidden behind balaclavas and night vision mounts. The temperature gauge showed 18°, though the wind made it feel far closer to -30. Commander Rylan Cole tapped a gloved finger against the tactical display, tracing their insertion point with the confidence of someone who'd done it countless times. The mission sounded simple on paper. Extract diplomat Richard Dane from a Taliban-held compound in the Hindu Kush. Intel claimed there were maybe 15-20 hostiles, but the thermal scans were saying something else entirely. "Sir, I'm reading at least 40 heat signatures," Lieutenant Mason Hale said over the comms, static popping between his words. "This doesn't match what we were given." Cole's jaw shifted. Just 24 hours earlier, on Christmas Eve, they'd learned Dane had been moved from Herat to this remote site, and their window to pull him out was closing fast. By tomorrow, the Taliban would likely shift him again, possibly across the Pakistani border where U.S. forces couldn't pursue. The loadmaster signaled 2 minutes to landing. Cole turned to brief the team, then stopped. At the very back of the bay, swallowed by gear nearly twice her size, sat someone who didn't quite fit the scene. Ava Kincaid looked more like she should be cramming for a math quiz than gearing up to support one of the most elite units on the planet. At 15, barely 5'3", her dark hair was tied in a tight braid under a watch cap, and the TAC 338 rifle resting across her lap was nearly as long as her entire frame. "Listen up," Cole called out. "We've got long-range support on this op. This is Ava Kincaid on loan from Langley. She'll be providing precision fire from elevated positions." The reaction was immediate. Quiet snickers rolled through the bay. Petty Officer Drew Madden leaned toward his teammate. "She's 15. Did somebody bring their kid to work?" A few muffled laughs followed, but Ava didn't react. She'd dealt with worse during her 6 months at the CIA facility in Virginia. Her fingers moved calmly across her scope, dialing for altitude and the stiff winds outside. The TAC 338, chambered in 338 Lapua Magnum, could reach out past 1,500 meters, if the shooter knew what they were doing, and she definitely did. In the right hands, visibility barely reaching 20 meters was still usable, though Petty Officer Luis Cardenas muttered, "What's a kid going to pick up that our thermals won't?" Commander Rylan Cole lifted a hand to quiet him, even if he shared the same doubts. Orders this high up the chain weren't open for debate. Asset designation, Sierra 7. Specialty, extreme long-range precision fire in brutal conditions. Her age hadn't appeared anywhere in the file. The Chinook dipped hard as it dropped through the final 1,000 feet, and Ava Kincaid went through her gear one last time. Rangefinder, wind meter, ballistic calculator, and the small bent hand mirror tucked into her chest pocket, its scratched surface a reminder of another life. 30 seconds, the loadmaster shouted. The SEALs stood, weapons ready, and Ava rose last, the rifle secured across her back in a custom harness spreading its weight evenly. She stepped toward the ramp where only darkness and snow waited. Cole caught her shoulder before she exited. "Stay behind us. Don't fire unless I say so. Clear?" She met his eyes. "Yes, sir." But something in her calm, steady look unsettled him. Not rebellion, just a quiet certainty born from seeing too much too young. The ramp slammed down and the team poured into the blizzard, their boots crunching over the abandoned Soviet-era base buried beneath 3 feet of powder. The Chinook peeled away, engines fading into a sudden, heavy silence. Cole signaled the formation forward. The compound sat 200 meters to the northeast at the base of a cliff. a half-collapsed three-story building surrounded by a tangle of outbuildings, just like the satellite images had shown. Ava kept to the rear, scanning for any vantage point. The tree line to the west had potential, but the angles were off. She needed height, not guesswork. Movement, 11 o'clock, Lieutenant Mason Hale whispered over comms, freezing the team. Shapes shifted near a burnt-out vehicle frame. Too many to be a simple patrol. Counting 6, maybe more behind them, Cardenas reported. Ava's fingers lifted her rangefinder. 800 meters. Wind northwest at 15 kilometers per hour, gusting to 25. She worked the ballistic drop in her head, the kind of calculation her father once made her practice for hours. "Sir," she whispered, requesting permission to move to an overwatch position. "Negative," Cole replied instantly. "Hold." But the shadows multiplied, 6, 12, 20. Thermal scopes lighting them in red and orange streaks across the snow. "This is a setup," Petty Officer Drew Madden muttered. "We're walking into a damn ambush." And he was right, Ava realized. This wasn't a holding site. It was a kill zone. 3 years earlier, when Ava was 12, her father, Master Sergeant Colin Kincaid, a legend in Delta Force and a sniper instructor who'd trained 2 generations of operators, had given her that same hand mirror for Christmas. Not for vanity, but survival. "A mirror can save your life," he told her at their training facility in North Carolina. "Helps check corners, signal aircraft, and most importantly, it tricks enemy snipers into thinking they've spotted your scope glint when you're really 3 feet to the left." Ava had grown up on military bases, homeschooled between her father's deployments. While other kids learned multiplication tables, she learned mil-dot ranging. And while they played video games, she drilled holdovers and wind calls. It wasn't harshness. Colin loved her deeply. But when her mother died in a car accident at 7, he poured his grief into preparing his daughter for a world that wasn't kind. He taught her how to shoot, how to think, how to survive, and the talent came naturally. Her eyesight tested at 28, sharp enough to see at 20 feet what most people could only make out at 8. Her hand-eye coordination sat in the 99th percentile, but even more remarkable was her intuitive feel for wind and distance, the way she sensed the subtle tremors in air pressure that bent a bullet's path. By 13, she was hitting targets at 800 meters with unsettling consistency. By 14, Ava Kincaid was stretching her shots out to 200 meters, a feat that finally put her on the CIA's radar. Then came last Christmas, December 23rd to be precise, when her father, Master Sergeant Colin Kincaid, was providing overwatch for a hostage rescue in Yemen. The mission should have been simple: pull an aid worker out of an al-Qaeda compound. But the intel had been compromised, and the SEALs walked straight into a coordinated ambush. Colin held his position for 40 minutes, laying down covering fire so the team could escape under brutal pressure, saving 11 lives before the 12th shot, one he never saw coming, found him through the chaos. The CIA officer who broke the news to Ava didn't soften the blow. "Your father died doing what he did best, protecting others." Then came the offer. They needed someone with her rare talent, someone who could operate where a conventional sniper would draw too much attention, someone people would underestimate until it was too late. "You can honor his memory," the officer said, "or let his sacrifice vanish." Ava chose the former. 6 months of intense training followed, not the basics, she already had those, but tradecraft, comms, and how to read a battlefield like a language. The psychologists worried about her age, yet the field operatives who trained beside her saw something else: coolness under pressure, methodical thinking, patience beyond her years. So, when the Afghanistan tasking order came down, Ava volunteered instantly. Not for revenge or recognition, but because 3 words in the mission brief stopped her cold. Christmas Day extraction. She refused to let another team lose someone on Christmas if she could stop it. The memory of her father's funeral flickered through her mind now as she crouched in the Afghan snow. The flag over his coffin, the rifle salute, the commanding officer's expression tinged with pity and respect. "Your father always said you were the best natural shot he'd ever trained," the man had told her. Prove him right. And tonight she intended to. The SEALs moved forward in a staggered formation, rifles up, each operator covering a different slice of the blizzard-muted world. Ava trailed 20 meters behind, her boots sinking into the powder, her scope sweeping across the growing cluster of thermal signatures ahead. 30 hostiles, then 40. This wasn't a guard detail. This was a reinforced Taliban unit waiting for them. "Commander," she whispered into the radio, "we're looking at a company-sized element. Minimum 60 fighters, more inside the structures." Cole's reply came back clipped. "Copy. Maintain radio silence unless it's critical." In other words, the adults were handling it. Ava swallowed her irritation. She'd seen this before during exercises. Seasoned operators reluctant to take intel from someone who looked like she should be stressing over high school dances, not fire missions. They reached the first structure, a half-collapsed garage littered with rusted vehicles. Lieutenant Mason Hale and Petty Officer Luis Cardenas swept inside while the rest secured the perimeter. The building was empty, but the tactical picture was rapidly falling apart. "Sir," Lieutenant Aaron Maddox said tensely, "we may need to rethink our approach. If they've got this many bodies out here, they already know we're coming," Lieutenant Aaron Maddox said, her voice tight. Commander Rylan Cole studied his tactical display, weighing 2 equally bad options: pull back and call for air support, which would take hours and risk losing Richard Dane, or push forward and walk straight into a prepared kill zone. The math wasn't pretty, but Ava Kincaid spotted what no one else did. Nearly 800 meters upslope, barely visible through the thick snowfall, a lone figure eased into position behind a low stone wall. The posture was unmistakable. Someone bracing to fire something heavier than a rifle. "RPG gunner, North Ridgeline," she transmitted urgently. 800 meters, 10 degrees right of the main structure. "I don't see a thing," Petty Officer Drew Madden replied. "Trust me," Ava insisted. "He's about to fire." Cole hesitated. The storm was brutal, and visibility nearly non-existent. But something in her voice carried absolute certainty. "All elements, find hard cover," he ordered. The SEALs scattered just seconds before a rocket-propelled grenade tore through the snow and slammed into the burnt vehicle chassis they'd been using moments earlier, the blast shredding the air with flying metal. "Contact north," Lieutenant Mason Hale yelled as a second RPG streaked in, then a third. The Taliban had sprung their ambush, and it was devastating. The team was pinned against a low wall with no safe way forward or back. "We need those RPGs taken out," Cole shouted. "Madden, Cardenas, lay down, suppressing fire." The 2 operators opened up with their HK-416s, but the range was too long. Their rounds vanished into the blizzard. Ava made her choice. Without waiting for permission, she dropped into a low crawl, moving 30 meters west toward a cluster of snow-laden pines. Her father's voice echoed in her head. "Sometimes the right move is the one they'll court-martial you for. At least you'll be alive to face it." The snow soaked through her jacket as she dragged herself forward, TAC 338 trailing behind on its sling. 40 meters, 50. She slipped between 2 trees and found a shallow depression. A risky spot, exposed on her right flank, but it gave her the angle she needed on the ridgeline. Ava settled into prone, deployed the bipod, and peered through her scope. There he was, The first RPG gunner, half hidden behind stacked rocks, preparing to fire again. Range, 823 meters. Wind, northwest, 20 kilometers per hour with unpredictable gusts. Temperature, -20. She factored air density, Coriolis drift, even her cold barrel's first shot deviation. The numbers lined up in her mind instantly. Instinct layered over training. She dialed her turrets, breathed in, breathed out, found the natural pause, and squeezed. The rifle bucked gently, the suppressed crack fading into the storm. Through the scope, she watched him crumple. RPG Position 1 neutralized, she said calmly. She shifted to the second target just as he scrambled for his launcher. She led him by half a body width and fired, the round punching into his chest and dropping him backwards into the snow. Position 2 down, engaging third. The last gunner had ducked for cover, exposing only an elbow and part of a knee, not enough for a clean hit. She waited. 10 seconds. 20. Then he shifted, lifting his head for just a split second. Ava fired. The round entered through his left eye. All RPG positions neutralized, she reported. For 3 long seconds, the radio stayed silent. Then Cole's voice came through, edged with disbelief. Sierra 7, confirm you just took out 3 targets at 800 meters in a blizzard. Confirmed, sir. Approach is clear. Another pause. Outstanding shooting. Hold position and provide overwatch. Ava allowed herself a small smile. Maybe, just maybe, they were starting to understand. The SEALs pushed forward again, moving with renewed confidence now that the immediate threat was gone. But Ava's instincts screamed something else entirely. The Taliban had shown their hand too early, and experienced fighters didn't make mistakes like that. Not unless they had something worse waiting. Professional fighters didn't blow an ambush that early unless they had something else waiting behind it. Ava Kincaid swept the compound through her scope, trying to identify what her instincts were warning her about. The main structure sat at the center, dark windows, too dark, too empty, and the heat signatures she'd tracked earlier had scattered to the flanks. They weren't defending the compound. They were funneling the SEALs into a kill zone. Commander, I suggest we hold position, she transmitted quietly. Enemy forces are repositioning for a secondary ambush. Noted, Commander Ryland Cole replied, though the team pushed on anyway. Too close to the objective to pull back now. Ava shifted her sightline to the eastern flank where shapes moved between buildings, winter camouflage blending with the snow. Through the scope, she picked out fighters lugging AK-47s and PKM machine guns into position, creating overlapping fields of fire. The SEALs reached the outer wall. Lieutenant Mason Hale placed a charge on the metal gate. 3, 2, 1, and the blast blew it inward as the team surged through. Gunfire erupted instantly from 3 directions, the Taliban waiting until the SEALs were fully committed before lighting them up from concealed positions. Contact left, contact right, second floor. Radios blared in chaotic bursts. Cole's concern had been valid. This was never a simple hostage site. This was a meticulously planned trap, and they'd stepped directly into it. Ava got to work. Her scope locked onto a machine gunner sweeping the courtyard with suppressive fire, pinning the SEALs in place. Range, 645 meters. She adjusted for the shorter distance, accounted for wind, squeezed the trigger, and watched him fall. A fighter burst from a doorway raising an RPG toward the team. Her next shot struck him before he could fire, the rocket detonating harmlessly against a wall. "Sniper on the northeast tower," Petty Officer Drew Madden yelled. "He just dropped Diaz." Ava swung her scope toward the crumbling minaret overlooking the compound. She caught the muzzle flash, then the shooter's outline as he tracked another target. This one moved differently, disciplined, deliberate. Someone trained, not a militia shooter. Ava fired but missed, her round hitting 6 inches left as the wind shifted violently. The enemy sniper immediately ducked out of sight. For several seconds, neither of them moved. Then she spotted it. A faint glint from his scope as he searched for her. Ava reached into her chest pocket and pulled out her father's old mirror. Tilting it just right, she let the weak moonlight bounce off its scratched surface, creating a flash 50 feet to her right. The sniper took the bait. His muzzle flash revealed his position as he fired at the false target, and Ava was already squeezing her trigger. Her shot punched straight through his center mass, sending him tumbling from the tower. "Tower sniper neutralized," she reported. "Status on Diaz?" "Flesh wound," Petty Officer Luis Cardenas replied. "He'll live, thanks to you." The firefight dragged on for 10 more brutal minutes, but with Ava handling Overwatch, the momentum flipped. Every time a Taliban fighter tried to reposition, she caught him. Every time someone attempted to mount a machine gun, she dismantled the threat. By the time the shooting eased, she'd fired 14 rounds, 12 confirmed kills. Cole's voice crackled over the radio, all business but with an unmistakable respect beneath it. "Sierra 7, exceptional work. We're moving to the target building. Hold Overwatch and report any threats." "Copy, sir," Ava said. Through her scope, she tracked the SEALs as they cleared building after building, protecting them like a distant guardian. 90 minutes earlier, they'd mocked her. Now, their survival hung on her precision, and she wasn't about to let them down. As she scanned the far ridgeline, something new caught her attention. A figure lying prone behind a rock outcrop, far more disciplined than the fighters she'd been eliminating. A second sniper. Methodical. Patient. Dangerous. "Commander, possible sniper position, northwest ridge, approximately 1,100 meters, she transmitted. "Can you neutralize?" Cole asked. "Working on it." The distant figure was barely visible through the thick snow, little more than an outline, and the faint shape of a long rifle extended forward. 1,100 meters. Under perfect conditions, the TAC-338 could manage that. But tonight was far from perfect. Gusting wind, near zero visibility, and an opponent who clearly knew every inch of his craft. Through her scope, Ava Kincaid watched the enemy sniper's long rifle swing toward the SEALs, lining up a shot she couldn't allow. She fired first, aiming high to compensate for the brutal distance, but her round punched into the snow 30 feet short. The sniper instantly shifted positions, realizing someone was countering him. For several tense minutes, the two traded fire without gaining ground. The range was punishing, the blizzard unforgiving. Ava forced him to move with every shot, and he sent rounds snapping past her own position in return. It was a deadly back and forth, two practiced shooters testing each other under impossible conditions. Then he made his move, sliding to a new perch with a cleaner angle on the SEALs, clearly deciding to take his shot regardless of her presence. Ava couldn't let that happen. Her father's old words echoed in her mind. When standard tactics fail, switch to the strange ones. A sniper isn't just a shooter, a sniper solves problems. She slipped her hand into her pocket, pulled out the battered mirror, and studied the snowy terrain. Even with the moon buried behind clouds, the snow gave off just enough ambient light for a reflection. She angled the mirror, sending a faint glint 20 feet left of her real position. The enemy sniper caught the flash and turned his rifle toward the decoy. Ava had already adjusted her aim, not firing at where he was, but at where he would rotate into when he committed. She held her breath as the wind quieted for a heartbeat and squeezed the trigger in that brief stillness, trusting the math and her instincts. The bullet traveled almost 3 seconds before it struck. Through her scope, she saw the sniper jerk back, his rifle falling as he collapsed. "Target down," she whispered. The radio crackled. "Sierra 7, was that you at 1100 meters?" Madden asked, stripped of his earlier sarcasm. "Confirmed," Ava replied. Someone muttered, "That's a competition shot in a blizzard." Cole cut in, all business. "Less chatter. Hostage located, preparing extraction." Ava swept the area, checking for lingering threats. The compound was temporarily clear, but down in the valley a cluster of fresh heat signatures was pushing up the slope. Reinforcements. "Sir, you've got about 15 minutes, she reported. 30 to 40 hostiles approaching from the south. "Understood, moving fast." Through her scope, she watched the SEALs emerge from the main building with Richard Dane between them, bruised, limping, but alive. They pushed toward the extraction clearing 200 meters east. Then the Taliban commander appeared, Qadir Rahmani, dragging someone behind him. Ava saw the small figure first, a terrified Afghan girl no older than 10. "Contact! Commander has a hostage!" Lieutenant Mason Hale shouted. Rahmani used the girl as a human shield, while his bodyguards unleashed suppressing fire to keep the SEALs pinned. "No shot," Madden called. "He's hidden right behind her." Cole's voice hardened. "We can't let him escape with that child. Sierra 7, do you have anything?" Ava tracked the group. Rahmani was smart, keeping the girl between himself and any shooter, but deep snow made him shift her to his side now and then. Each shift opened a sliver of opportunity, a half-second window at best, and pine branches could easily throw a shot off course. "I might have a shot," Ava said. "High risk. A deflection could hit the girl." "Confidence level?" Cole asked. Ava thought of her father, the 11 men he saved with a shot he wasn't entirely sure about, the scratched mirror in her pocket, the last gift he ever gave her. 60%, she answered truthfully. Silence. 60% meant a 40% chance of killing an innocent child, unacceptable odds. "Hold your fire," Cole ordered. "We'll pursue on foot." But Ava kept watching. Rahmani was heading toward a narrow ravine that would give him perfect cover. If he reached it, they'd lose both him and the girl, who would vanish into the same nightmare countless others never escaped. Then Ava Kincaid noticed something that rewrote the entire equation: the commander's grip on the girl's shoulder. He wasn't just hiding behind her. His hand sat precisely on the pressure point where shoulder meets neck, a textbook pain compliance hold. If he were merely dragging her, he'd have grabbed clothing or an arm. But this grip meant he expected resistance. It meant he planned to hurt her the moment she tried to break free. And it meant Ava had a shot that didn't involve hitting the child at all. "Commander, I'm taking the shot," she transmitted. "Negative, stand down," Cole ordered, but Ava was already tightening the trigger. The round tore through 890 meters of swirling snow, slicing past pine branches and fighting air currents desperate to push it off course. It struck exactly where she'd aimed, Qadir Rahmani's right wrist, shattering bone and forcing his hand to release. The girl immediately dropped and rolled away, just as Ava had hoped she would. His bodyguard spun toward the threat, but Ava was already engaging. "Neutralizing secondaries," she said calmly. 2 shots, 2 falls. Rahmani collapsed to his knees, clutching his ruined wrist and screaming through the blizzard. Petty Officer Luis Cardenas reached him moments later, wrenching him into zip ties, while Lieutenant Mason Hale scooped the terrified little girl into his jacket and carried her toward the extraction point. Cole's voice hit the radio, tight with emotion. "Sierra 7, that was either the best shot I've ever seen or the luckiest. I honestly don't know which." "Neither, sir," Ava replied softly. "It was the necessary shot." 20 minutes later, the Chinook punched through the storm and dropped into the clearing, rotors hurling snow in a violent spiral. The SEALs loaded fast. Richard Dane, the rescued girl, the wounded Noel Diaz, and the captured commander. As they prepared to board, Cole walked over to Ava, who was field-stripping her rifle with numb fingers. "That wrist shot," he said quietly. "How did you know she'd drop?" "I didn't know for sure," Ava admitted. "But the way he held her, that hold forces compliance through pain. Break the bone and the grip fails. The body can't keep tension through trauma like that. I just trusted she'd move away from danger. And if you'd missed by 2 inches, I didn't." Cole studied her in the dim light. "Your file says you're 15. It doesn't say you're one of the best snipers I've ever operated with." Ava locked the last piece of her rifle into place. "The file also doesn't say my father died on a mission just like this, last Christmas, providing overwatch for a SEAL team." Understanding crossed Cole's face. "Master Sergeant Colin Kincaid. He saved 11 operators." "He did," Ava said, "and I wasn't going to let you become the 12th he couldn't save." The other SEALs had gathered by then. Petty Officer Drew Madden stepped forward, pulling a patch from his vest, the SEAL Team 7 insignia from his right shoulder. "Kid, regs say we can't officially give you this," he murmured. "But unofficially, you earned it tonight. 12 confirmed kills, 0 friendly casualties. That's a ratio most of us never see in an entire career." He pressed the patch into her palm. One by one, the others approached, handshakes, quiet words, respectful nods. Something inside Ava cracked, a wall she'd built from grief and isolation. Warm tears cut through the freezing wind. "My dad always said snipers don't cry," she whispered. "Your dad was wrong," Cole replied gently. "The best ones do. It means they understand that every shot carries weight, every life you save and every life you take." Hale stepped off the Chinook carrying the young Afghan girl, now checked by the medic. She was shaken but unharmed. "She keeps asking who saved her," Hale said. "I told her an angel in the snow." The girl looked at Ava and offered a small, brave smile. Ava returned it, wondering if this was the feeling her father had carried after saving those 11 men. The strange, heavy mix of purpose, sorrow, and something close to hope. It was a strange blend of exhaustion and purpose, grief tangled with a fragile kind of hope. As everyone boarded the helicopter, Petty Officer Luis Cardenas settled beside Ava Kincaid. "So, what now?" he asked. "You head back to high school and pretend Christmas break was normal?" "I don't know," Ava admitted. "The CIA hasn't told me what comes next." Cardenas smirked softly. "Well, when you hit 18, if you want a place with us, the door's open. We could use someone with your skills, hell, with your instincts." The Chinook lifted into the air, banking away from the compound. Below them, snow was already erasing every footprint and spent casing, wiping the battlefield clean as if the night's violence had never happened. But Ava would remember. Every shot, every decision, every life saved, and every life taken. As they cut through the dark Christmas morning sky toward base, Ava pulled out her father's mirror. Its scratched surface caught the faint cabin light, reflecting a face that looked older than it had 12 hours earlier. "I kept them safe, Dad," she whispered. "Just like you taught me." Around her, the SEALs sat in silence, each man lost in his own thoughts. Combat did that, forced you inward, made you confront the person behind the trigger. Yet there was camaraderie in that quiet too, an understanding that didn't need words. Finally, Madden broke it. "Sierra 7, longest shot tonight?" 1,134 meters, Ava replied. Counter-sniper on the northwest ridge. Blizzard conditions. Wind gusts up to 30 clicks. He shook his head. That shouldn't even be possible. Ava shrugged. My father always said impossible is just something that hasn't been done yet. Cole studied her across the cabin. Your father taught you well, but he also gave you something more important than technique, judgment, knowing when to take the shot and when not to. That's what separates great snipers from good ones. Ava's voice dropped. I nearly killed that girl. If the wind had shifted, if I'd been off by inches. But you weren't, Cole said firmly. You made the right call under impossible pressure. That takes courage. Or insanity, Madden muttered with a weary grin. Probably both. The tension broke, and soft laughter rippled through the cabin. Even Ava smiled, though her hand still trembled as the adrenaline drained from her system. Dawn was rising over Bram Airfield when they landed. The sky was calm and clear, a complete contrast to the storm they'd fought through. Ground crews rushed forward, medics ready for the wounded. As Ava stepped off the ramp, a man in civilian clothes approached. She recognized Samuel Briggs immediately, her CIA handler. Merry Christmas, he said dryly. Heard you made quite an impression. The mission succeeded, Ava replied, slipping back into formal tone. Briggs glanced toward the SEALs being debriefed. Cole's preliminary report says 12 confirmed KIA, 1 hostage rescued, 1 high-value target captured, 0 friendly casualties. Command is very pleased. What happens now? Ava asked. Now? Briggs studied her face. Now you go home, back to Virginia, back to being a 15-year-old for a while. I'm not a kid anymore, she said quietly. No, Briggs agreed, you're not. But you deserve the chance to be one, at least for a little longer. The agency will still be here when you're ready. Cole approached, having wrapped his debrief. Mr. Briggs, we need to discuss Sierra 7's future deployment options. She's 15, Briggs cautioned. I'm aware, Cole replied. But age or not, she's one of the most naturally gifted snipers I've seen in 20 years. Her instincts, her skill, her judgment, they're beyond operators twice her age. Briggs turned to Ava. Is this really what you want, to keep doing this? Ava thought of her father, of the 11 men he'd saved, of the young Afghan girl who'd smiled despite everything, of the SEAL Team 7 patch now in her pocket. My father always said talent without purpose is just potential, she said softly. He gave me the talent. Tonight I found the purpose. That's not exactly an answer, Briggs replied. Yes, it is, Cole interjected. She's saying she wants to keep going. And I'm saying the Special Operations community would be lucky to have her. Briggs exhaled slowly. You understand the complications, Commander. The legal issues, the ethical problems, the fact she's supposed to be in high school. I understand she saved 11 American lives tonight, Commander Rylan Cole said firmly. And I understand that without her, we'd be loading body bags instead of celebrating a success. Age is just a number. Capability is what matters. Samuel Briggs exhaled slowly. I'll have to take this up with Langley. For now, Ava, you're going home. We'll sort out the rest later. As Briggs walked off, Cole turned back to her. Don't let the bureaucrats kill your career before it even begins. What you did tonight matters. You matter. Thank you, sir, she said. One more thing, Cole added, pulling out his satellite phone. He turned the screen toward her. Official after-action report. I listed you only as Sierra 7 to protect your identity, but I want you to read what I wrote. The text read, Asset Sierra 7 provided precise long-range fire support under extreme conditions. 12 confirmed enemy KIA. Multiple threats neutralized at ranges exceeding 1,100 meters in blizzard conditions. Her actions directly resulted in 0 friendly casualties and the successful completion of the mission. This operator demonstrated skills and judgment equal to or surpassing our most experienced snipers. Highest recommendation for future operations. Cole lowered the phone. I don't write reports like that lightly. You earned every word. As SEAL Team 7 headed toward their barracks, each man paused to acknowledge her, some with a handshake, others with a nod, all of it sincere. Petty Officer Drew Madden was last. Hey, Sierra 7, one thing. That mirror trick you pulled on the counter sniper, where'd you learn it? My father, Ava replied. It was his technique. Madden's eyes lit with recognition. Colin Kincaid, I've heard stories. They said he could make a rifle do things no one believed were possible. He could, Ava said softly. Looks like you inherited more than his skill. You got his heart too. Madden raised a full military salute, recognizing her as an equal. It was an honor serving with you. When the team disappeared into the distance, Ava stood alone on the tarmac, watching the sunrise spill across the mountains. Somewhere beyond those peaks, snow was falling again on the empty compound, on the shell casings, the bloodstains, and the place where she realized her father hadn't just taught her to shoot. He'd taught her to protect, to sacrifice, to do the hard things when lives hung in the balance. Later, in a modest Pentagon office, far less imposing than she expected, Ava sat beside Briggs as 2 generals and a colonel examined a classified file bearing her name. This is unprecedented, General Huxley Ward said. We don't employ 15-year-olds in combat operations. We just did, Briggs replied, and the results speak for themselves. The results are legally problematic, Ward countered. If this ever became public, then we don't make it public, Cole interrupted. He'd been invited to argue for her continued service. Sierra 7 remains a classified asset. Her identity stays protected. But we don't sideline someone with her capabilities because of bureaucratic discomfort. Ward turned to Ava. Miss Kincaid, do you understand what we're discussing? We're talking about sending you into danger repeatedly, asking you to take lives, expecting decisions that seasoned soldiers twice your age still struggle with. Yes, sir, Ava said steadily. I understand. And you want to keep doing this? She chose her words carefully. My father taught me that everyone has gifts. Some people are gifted at music or math or art. My gift is this, and I've seen what happens when people with gifts don't use them. Good people die who might have lived. You're 15, Ward repeated, as if saying it might change something. I'm also the reason 11 Americans and 1 Afghan child went home alive on Christmas, Ava said quietly. Age didn't matter on that mountain. Capability did. The room fell silent. Finally, General Ward closed the file and said, I'm about to make a recommendation that will probably end my career. I propose we create a special category for Sierra 7. General Huxley Ward said at last. Limited operational deployment, strict oversight, mandatory psychological evaluations every 60 days, and if we see even a hint that this is harming her, she's pulled immediately. Agreed, the others said. Ward turned to Ava Kincaid. You'll continue your education. You'll maintain a cover as an ordinary teenager, but when we need someone with abilities that conventional operators can't match, you'll be called in. Can you handle that double life? I've been living it for 6 months, sir. Then welcome to the most classified program in the Department of Defense, Ward said. Officially, you don't exist. Unofficially, you may be one of our most valuable assets." Leaving the Pentagon, Commander Rylan Cole walked beside her toward the waiting car. "That went better than I expected," he admitted. "What happens now?" Ava asked. "Now you go back to school, take your tests, pretend you're a normal teenager, and when the time comes, Briggs will contact you. Will it be you again, SEAL Team 7? Cole smiled. "I hope so. You're good luck. And in our line of work, we take whatever luck we get." They shook hands, his grip firm and respectful, not as a commander to a child, but as one professional to another. "Your father would be proud," he said quietly. "Not just of your shooting, of your character. You made impossible choices with grace. That's rare at any age." After he left, Samuel Briggs drove her to the airport. Her flight to Virginia left in 2 hours. "You should know," he said as they walked. "The little girl you saved, Lila, is being moved to a safe house in Herat because of you. She has a future now. And Qadir Rahmani is talking. The intel we're getting will save more lives than we can count. Your shot didn't just save one child. It set off a chain reaction that's still unfolding." At the gate, Briggs handed her a phone. "New number, secure. Only 3 people have it, me, Cole, and your agency contact. Keep it charged. When we need you, we'll need you fast." Ava nodded. Briggs reached into his coat and produced a small box. This came from SEAL Team 7. Inside was a heavy challenge coin, the SEAL trident on one side and engraved on the other. "Sierra 7, Christmas 2024, 0 casualties." Tears threatened, but she forced them back. Briggs smiled. "They don't hand those out lightly. You're part of the Brotherhood now, whether you're 15 or 50. Spring arrived in Virginia. Ava sat in chemistry class, pretending to pay attention to electron bonds while her mind drifted to wind calls and shooting angles. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number, but she knew the code. "Weather looks clear. Planning a camping trip. Interested? Cole, another mission." She texted back, when and where. The reply, "Meet your friend Thomas tonight. He has the details." She deleted the messages as she'd been trained. Around her, classmates whispered about prom dates and college plans. Normal worries for normal teenagers. She wasn't normal anymore. Maybe she never had been. That evening, Briggs briefed her on the new operation, a hostage situation in Somalia, multiple American aid workers, rough terrain, high-risk extraction. "SEAL Team 7 specifically requested you," he said. "Cole says you're their good luck." "When do I leave?" "Tomorrow." Briggs hesitated. "Ava, the psychologist's report came in. You're functioning remarkably well, but she's concerned about long-term strain. You're carrying trauma most adults couldn't handle." "I'm fine," Ava said automatically. "Are you?" Briggs asked. She paused. Was she? Nightmares still came. About the shot on Rahmani. About the little girl who might have died if her aim had been off by inches. About the 12 men she killed that night on Christmas. But she also thought of Lila, alive because of her. She thought of the SEALs who made it home to their families, of her father who taught her that protecting others was the highest calling anyone could ever choose. "I'm not fine," Ava finally admitted, "but I'm doing something that matters. That's better than fine." Briggs studied her for a long moment. "You're wise beyond your years. I just hope the cost of that wisdom isn't too high." "My father paid the ultimate cost," she said softly. "I can handle the lesser one." The next morning, Ava Kincaid boarded a military transport bound for Djibouti, where she would link up with SEAL Team 7 for mission prep. Another operation. Another chance to use her gift to save lives. As the plane cut upward through the clouds, she pulled out her father's mirror. Its scratched surface caught the early sunlight. "Still keeping them safe, Dad," she whispered. "One mission at a time." The SEAL challenge coin pressed against her leg inside her pocket, a quiet reminder that she wasn't walking this strange double life alone. She had brothers now, warriors who'd stand with her when it mattered most. As the aircraft leveled off, Ava opened her briefing packet and studied the rugged terrain of Somalia. Somewhere ahead, Americans were in danger, and she would be there for them. Because that's what snipers did. They watched over others from afar, took the shots no one else could make, carried the burdens no one else could bear. Her father had taught her that, and on a frozen Christmas night in Afghanistan, she proved she'd learned the lesson well. 3 years later, on her 18th birthday, Ava Kincaid received an official letter from the Department of Defense. The message was simple. "Your service has been exemplary. When you're ready, a place among us is yours. It would be an honor to have you." It was signed by the commanders of SEAL Team 7, Delta Force, and the CIA's Special Activities Division. She read the letter in her Georgetown dorm room, where she was studying international relations and maintaining a perfect GPA. To her classmates, she was just another driven student. None of them knew she'd completed 17 classified missions in 3 years, or that her call sign was spoken with respect across the special operations world. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out 3 objects: her father's mirror, the SEAL challenge coin, and a photo of Lila, smiling on her first day of school in Herat. The letter asked if she wanted a place among them. The truth was, she'd never really left. Ava picked up her phone and dialed Commander Cole. "Sir, this is Sierra 7, she said. "I'm ready for full-time duty." On the other end, Cole's smile was practically audible. "Welcome home, operator. We've been waiting for you." And just like that, the youngest sniper in American military history officially enlisted.